Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the food experience. Today's food experience, the kind folks at Vevor sent me the newest updated version of their 21-inch flat top griddle. Can't wait to unbox this thing for you guys and get it all seasoned up. And that's what we're doing in this video. So without further ado, here we go. One thing I noticed right away is they still have the Celsius here, but on the outside they have the temperature in Fahrenheit. The power light illuminates when it's plugged in, and the heating lamp turns on when the griddle is heating up. When it reaches whatever desired temperature you would like, the heating lamp turns off. The grease trap door now says Vevor on it. The previous version didn't, and it looks a little bit of a different lift. Similar type tray. Another thing I immediately notice is the hole for the grease trap is a little bit longer. Inside of the box you'll also receive an instruction guide, 2 brushes, and 2 spatulas. Another thing I notice is the spatulas are not as wide. They still have a beveled edge at the end, but here's the original spatulas that came with my first 21-inch griddle. The usable part of the griddle is about 11 3/4 inches from the front to the rear. Going across, it's 21 1/4 inches. As I mentioned, the hole for the grease trap's a little bit wider. It's coming in at 3 1/4 inches. I measured the width of the grease trap in the original device, and it's only about 2 1/8 inches. Before connecting it to power, there are a couple things you need to do. First, remove the plastic covering. You should immediately notice there's a bunch of manufacturing oil, and I recommend getting rid of that first. Grab yourself some hot soapy water and a sponge. And wipe down the entire surface and the rails, and also the grease trough. Next, come back with some clean water and wring out your sponge and get rid of all the soap residue. I also recommend getting yourself an infrared heat gun. It definitely helps knowing the temperature and hot spots of your griddle. Right now the griddle top is about 55 degrees. When applying power, you'll notice that the power light illuminates. Another thing I noticed with this version is the off position is dead center at the bottom. The previous version, the off was straight up at the top. Time to turn it on. Really interesting because my heat gun is showing that it's about 155 degrees. However, when I turn it down, it's really at about 300, maybe a little bit below that. It could be that until it's seasoned, you're not going to get a proper reading. I don't remember if the original one was like that or not, but I'm going to continue. At this point, I am going to start applying some oil. I'm using peanut oil, that's what I prefer. Just apply a light coating and rub it in. Make sure to spread it thin. You don't want any pools of oil. Peanut oil is a very high temperature oil, and I'll know when it's hot when it actually starts smoking off. I noticed some discoloration happening right around here. Just keep in mind, it does take a bit longer the first time. In the dead center, it's about 300 degrees right now. Applying a little bit more oil. Just make sure to keep that oil very thin. I think I will turn up the dial all the way just so it doesn't turn off the heating element prematurely. Right now we're at about 360 degrees, almost 370 in some spots. The browning is definitely spreading out if you notice. A little bit more oil. Once the smoke stops, you could apply another layer, and you want to keep going probably about 5 times, maybe even 6 on this unit. But it's definitely spreading out. The browning is definitely getting more coverage. The temperature now is at about 440 degrees. Even if you don't have a temperature probe, you can definitely tell this area is definitely the hottest. The right side's definitely the coolest spot, just like it was on the previous Vevor griddle. The left side's a little warmer, but the real heat is right in the middle there. Looks like all the smoke has rolled off. Gonna apply a little bit more. You should be able to see that smoke coming off. I think it's a lot more in person than you're going to see on the camera. Just how it is with my lighting right now. If there's any sticky areas, then you have too much oil in one spot. Let it continue to smoke off. And as you can see, the browning is definitely widening out. Temperature in the dead center is right about 500 degrees. Time for another application of oil. Now that the towel has quite a bit of oil on it, I would start hitting the side rails. Smoke is rolling off nicely. Temperature at this point, about 510 degrees, 514. And I think I mentioned, if you feel any sticky spots, kind of aggressively go at it, because there should not be any sticky spots. That means you have too much oil. I'm also going to hit the grease trough area, even though that doesn't get too hot. Running almost at 530 in some areas. Doing another layer. At this point, I'm going to apply a little bit of oil to my towel. And you want to keep at it until most of the surface has got some good browning going on. It's not going to get all the way to the sides and corners. That'll happen through time when you're cooking on it. Definitely coming along nicely, folks. It's kind of to the edge right here, pretty close to the edge. And it's definitely widening out a bit to the other edge. The longer you have it on, the more heat it gets. The more heat it gets, the more it's going to season. Temperature's right around 550 in some spots. Go for another coat. And that seasoning is what helps create the non-stick surface. Very important you do that if you want it to be really non-stick. According to the thermostat, yep, it's almost there at the max. And that's pretty much what my probe is telling me. Do another thin layer. Temperature check. right around 575, which is actually a little bit more than it's supposed to go to. 578 now. Temperature staying right about 577 in the middle. I do think that the 14-inch griddle gets a little bit hotter than this guy, but then again, you're not going to really be cooking things over 570 degrees. Even that is like way too high for most things. One more time. And I think that'll be my final coat of oil. Gosh, I must have done it around maybe 7 or 8 times, but I really wanted to get the most coverage possible. And you can see that browning is really spread out almost to the full surface. Temperature right now is at about 582. Definitely a bit hotter than it's advertised. Of course, you're not going to get that side to side. Like on the sides here, I'm at about 430. On this side, about 455, 444. But as you go into the center, 583. At this point, I'll turn it off and let her cool down. Let's do a time and temperature check on the Vevor 21-inch griddle, the newest version. Right now, room temperature, it's about 73.5 degrees. Turning it on all the way and starting a stopwatch. Right at the 5-minute mark, we're at 171 degrees, 175 degrees almost. Just past the 10-minute mark, and it's pretty much almost 300 degrees. Right after the 15-minute mark, it's pretty much 386 degrees. Right after the 20-minute mark, it's around 450 degrees. At the 25-minute mark, we are almost 500 degrees. Right after the 30-minute mark, 531. Yeah, about 530 degrees, maybe a little bit more. Right after the 35-minute mark, it's about 560 degrees, almost to the full temperature. Just to demonstrate how hot it is, you'll see how this peanut oil just burns immediately because it's definitely past that smoke point. There we go. And this just further helps with the seasoning, folks. As long as you have it nice and thin, it'll totally be non-stick. But yeah, look at all that smoke coming off. Definitely nice and hot. At the 40-minute mark, it's pretty much there. 576. Saw 577 at one spot. Oh, there we go. 578.6. And it's still heating up, and it probably will reach that final temperature, but there's no need to continue. In most cases, you're never even going to want to run it that hot. I just wanted to show you that it does reach that temperature. Welcome back, everybody. That was a look at the Vevor 21-inch flat-top griddle, the newest version. I want to give a big thank you and shout out to Vevor for sending this new version my way. Closing thoughts. All right, so nothing has changed really from the original video of the original version. However, I will say that I noticed this one takes a little bit longer to heat up to those extreme temperatures. However, heating up to around 400, 450, it's all reasonable. You're really not going to want to cook most things hotter than that, okay? Unless you want like an extreme sear on a steak or something like that. When you're cooking things like smash burgers even, you want a hot griddle, definitely over 400 degrees. I try to shoot for around 450 because that way when the meat goes down and there's that slight bit of temperature drop, it's able to recover pretty quick and it doesn't drop too low. I'll come back with a smash burger video on this guy. I haven't done that yet, but I already know how it's gonna go. I really enjoy this thing. I think they have the best electric griddle that you could get. It definitely runs circles around the Blackstone E-Series, and for a couple of reasons. One, you could use metal utensils on this. And another thing, the Blackstone, wow, just to even get it to 500 degrees was a real chore. Sometimes it wouldn't even reach it. In fact, the longer I used that product, the longer it took to heat up. And I've never experienced that with Vevor. And the surface is totally non-stick. Make sure to season your griddle. I see that there are some people not seasoning their Vevor griddle. And there's a big misunderstanding that people are thinking. They're thinking it's a stainless steel top. It's not. Look on Vevor's website. It is indeed an iron surface. And you would want to season your cast iron pans, right? It's no different with this product. The more it's seasoned, the less things will stick and the better cooking experience that you will have. I guarantee that. The other thing is the spatulas. I don't know why they made smaller spatulas this time around. The first round, they were like the perfect size, and I don't know, they were a little bit sturdier and whatnot, but then again, you're not buying a griddle for the tools that come with it. You could definitely go out there and get other tools. If you look way back in my videos, you'll see that I bought a big assortment of griddle tools, and they're still working great for the most part. In that set, they had 2 different large spatulas. These things come in very handy. I'm definitely using these all the time. Also, folks, make sure to invest in a bench scraper. It's very handy for scraping down the grease. I also like that the grease trap, the hole, is a bit larger on this, and I feel that the runoff goes down a lot easier. It's just so much easier to keep maintained and clean. In addition to that, if you don't already have one, invest in an infrared temperature gun. You know, I'll say one thing. When I was seasoning this guy, at the very beginning, I don't think it was really giving me correct readings. However, once it is seasoned, this will definitely give you proper temperature readings on this griddle. Highly recommend getting one. This one is from Inkbird, and I think it was around $25 and well worth it. I also think that this one is a little quieter. There's that little bit of a hum that you get when operating these devices, and I could tell it was a lot more noticeable on my last one, but then again, maybe through time I'll notice it more on this, but for right now it's pretty dang quiet. I also love the rails that they have going around. If you're ever going to cook an omelet and you don't have an omelet ring, the edges right there make it so easy to square up that omelet where you only have 2 sides that are not squared up, and it's easy to work with that way. You could just use your large spatulas and square up the sides. Makes it just for a much better presentation of an omelet. So really, those are my closing thoughts. Do I recommend the Vevor 21-inch flat top griddle like I did on the last one? Heck yeah, I love this thing. Like I said, there is not another electric griddle that I have seen on the market that could achieve these temperatures, that has an iron cooking surface, and everything is just such a joy to work with on this thing. So go check it out at vevor.com. I will drop a link in the description down below so you can easily navigate there and pick one up today. And if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, or anything like that, or you just want to say, hey Andy, what's up? Drop me a line below. I love hearing from you guys. And I hope you all had a fantastic and happy New Year. It is New Year's Day right now. I actually filmed the seasoning part of this a couple of weeks ago. I have a lot of stuff on my plate, so I wanted to come back after using it for a while and do a little bit of an outro. You will be seeing some more things coming up on that. So we're out of here. Have a stellar day. Be excellent. And most of all, remember me. I'm KJ Andy O, your food experience host with the most. Y'all take care, and I'll see you next time.